Hey guys, what's up? I'm gonna do a video about, as you can see, the 90 gallon. But I'm gonna talk about in this video about plants, like the hardier types of plants that are good for beginners and even for experts because they do look nice. Okay, I will display this tank because it's the tank with the most plants, really. Um, with the most variety as of now. Um, so let's go into it right now. I will list 3 plants that I believe are hardy in my experience. Top 3, and then I'll go into some other ones, but not as important as the ones I described as top 3. So number 1 would be the Java fern. This one right here. That's the Java fern. Okay, that's just the normal variation of it. There is a needle leaf one, which I do have in the discus tank. I'll show that a little later. I guess I like this plant because it's hardy. It's a low light plant, meaning you don't have to have this much bright light. Even just one of these would be well enough for it. It's not too fast of a grower, it's not too slow. So maintenance isn't too hard on it. If there's dead leaves, it usually just comes right off of it. It can either be floating, unplanted, or even better, it can be even attached onto wood or rocks by tying it. After like a couple months, the roots should be wrapped around the driftwood, thus just holding itself, anchoring itself onto it. This one just floated up, but it's like wrapped around this leaf, or the stem of the Nubius. This is the second species I'll talk about. See, it's kind of wrapped around, so I think it looks pretty neat, like a plant on a plant. Okay, and the last thing about the Java fern, it doesn't have to be like a well fertilized CO2 tank. It's a hardy plant. It doesn't need that kind of conditions. Low light, low fertilizer. Okay. And second hardiest plant, that would be, I would say, the Nubias. This is Nubias Barteri, Barteri, I think. The bigger leaved one. The smaller leaf one is the Nana, I think, but I'm kind of mixed up sometimes, so. There's a bigger leaf and a smaller leaf, and then there's another one which is really tiny. But anyways, they're all the same care. Just the tinier the leaves are, the more expensive they will be. I'll just say that. It's basically the same care as the Java fern. It doesn't need that much light, doesn't need CO2, that kind of fertilizer. It can be planted, attached to the driftwood, same process. But it's very buoyant, especially the bigger ones, so just watch out for that. Make sure you bury it well. The greater thing to this plant is that it is one of the plants that grow well in sand. The important thing to know about it, on any type of Anubias, is you want to leave there's a little kind of roundish part where it's kind of like the roots are attached to. You want to leave that out of the substrate. It's very important. Or if you bury it and it's not exposed to the light, the plant will slowly die. You might not notice it in the first weeks, but over time it will die. So just don't do that. It's a pretty slow grower in my opinion, but it can handle a lot. Like I said, even if you bury it, like I think it's called. I'm not too sure what it's called, but even if you bury that bulbous part, it'll stay green for quite a while, so it's very hardy. And the third plant Oh, and this one's attached to the wood. That one is as well, but it's also attached to the soil a little bit. The third plant that I think would... Oh, and let me show another. Just gotta turn this light on. There's another version of the Nubius. It's a taller version. Medium-sized leaves, but it grows taller than an average one. And this is Java Fern. You saw this before, but it's actually inside the pockets of the rock. So, the third plant that's extremely hardy. It can take a lot. Like, it can be planted almost anywhere. Okay. Would be the Sagittarius. It's in my discus tank, and I'll explain out here. And I'll just show you what it looks like. It grows very tall. It can even grow up to 3 feet. So if you let it grow like that, and your tank isn't that high, it also provides good cover. If you don't have floating plants, like you can dim the lights. It grows extremely fast. No CO2, but no CO2 or fertilizer required. But medium to high lights would be better for it to grow really good. It can have like a darker kind of shade or a little lighter, depending on how your lighting conditions are. And it spreads like. Y'all just buy one little like group, like a bunch for like that. I can buy them for $2 literally. So, and I bought one bunch, but I had CO2, so that probably helped a lot immensely. By the end of the month, it was just spreading everywhere in that whole corner, which like ended up with me saving $10. I mean, it's fine, and then plus it keeps growing now anyway, so might as well. No problem saving money. And yeah, and some other plants I'll show you outside in the garage. Yep. And this is another variation of the Java Fern, the needle leaf. As you can see, it doesn't do as well in the sand, but it's sufficient. This tank has very high lighting. So I think that's what's kind of keeping it up. But I'm thinking about moving it, but I'm not too sure yet. It looks nice. This can also be attached to driftwood. It's called needle leaf because it's thinner, taller, skinnier leaves, but essentially the same care. I would recommend a little bit more light for it, just because I think it looks, and it's a little more expensive too. So why not? These are all the taller versions of Anubias, except that one. The taller ones usually have less leaves towards the bottom, like compared to this one where the leaves are right there. And these ones where it's just more at the top, elevated, that kind of thing. And it's the last shot of everything. Oh, and the plant, even though it's not like that much of a hardy species, but it's pretty good too, is the Amazon sword. This is it. You might see it in my other tanks too. Big leaves, nice green coloring. But there is brown algae growing at the tips of it. And sometimes the loaches make little holes, so if you see little holes in it, And it's not because the plant is dying, it's because the loaches, like, you just really make little holes in it. I mean, it's not hurting the plant. This is like a smaller form that hasn't fully grown yet. That one was seriously messed up, but it was really cheap, so I thought I could just bring it back to life. Yeah, it doesn't grow too big, like 2 feet being maximum. But just it has a big root system, so don't put it near a bunch of other plants. And substrate must be thick for this one. But the other one's short, maybe an inch, above an inch would be really good. For this one, 2 inches minimum. Unless it's like, I don't know. See, I got the driftwood holding it down a little bit, but even if I took it away, it would actually be fine. But that helps. And yeah, I recommend for beginners in the planting tank, get Anubias and Java Fern. They all look nice. And they can be planted in the front, foreground, mid, and depending on your style of the tank, it can be planted in the back and still look really good. Yeah, I'll make another update of this tank next time. Have fun with the plants.